As promised, joining me now is House Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries. Let me start by, I just kind of tried to outline what the impact would be if SNAP benefits are cut off, and we certainly look like we're heading for that. We'll see what the judge rules, of course, tonight. I want to start by asking you about the human impact. I showed some video of a long line at a food bank out in Arizona, in Phoenix, Arizona. There are lines like that all across the country. I know you're hearing from members, you're paying attention to districts. Help people understand what the human impact is right now, what you're anticipating.
Yeah, it's extraordinary that Donald Trump and Republicans are threatening to cut off SNAP benefits to 42 million Americans, including 16 million children, 8 million seniors, and over 1 million veterans. And every single one of those individuals represents a real life impact. People who would otherwise struggle to put food on the table in the absence of these SNAP benefits. And there's absolutely no justification for Donald Trump and the Republicans to withhold SNAP. They have more than $5 billion in an emergency fund that will allow these benefits to continue through the end of November. They can also find funds for other things, just as they've repeatedly done, but they can't do it for SNAP. So that's extraordinary. It shows where their priorities are. And Mike Johnson actually said the quiet power out loud earlier today, when he indicated that we're willing to starve, meaning Republicans are willing to starve children and seniors and women and veterans and American families in order to put pressure on Democrats to continue Republican efforts to gut health care of everyday Americans. We're not going to do it.
We just played that clip, and it's exactly as you said. He's basically saying we're using it as a bargaining chip. We're using people who will not have enough food next week, potentially, as a bargaining chip. One of the things that struck me is that hunger has never been a partisan issue. I mean, this program has never been shut down before, since it was started in 1939. And now you have the Trump administration making a legal argument that they cannot use funding from other funds, which they can. There's also $23 billion they could use that they used for WIC, right?
That's right.
That they're making a legal argument, which feels to me almost kind of immoral. But how are you digesting that, the legal argument they're making, given the human impact here?
Well, it's incredible that they would suggest that there are legal obstacles to doing anything when the Trump administration has been completely and totally out of control. But when it comes to actually meeting the needs of the American people who might otherwise go hungry, the Trump administration all of a sudden believes that they don't have the authority to do something that Congress has clearly given them the authority to do. But these are extremists who are willing to actually starve their own folks. One of the 5 states that would be most impacted if SNAP benefits are cut off is Louisiana, the home state of both Speaker Mike Johnson and Majority Leader Steve Scalise, but they could care less. After all, these are individuals who led the effort to pass the one big ugly bill that enacted the largest cut to Medicaid in American history, which is part of the reason why we have this health care crisis. But in that bill, they also cut $186 billion from SNAP, the largest cut to nutritional assistance in American history, which is one of the reasons why this hunger issue is not going away. And we're going to have to grapple with it as part of reversing these Republican policies that are doing great damage to everyday Americans.
We're waiting for this judge's ruling, and she seemed to indicate that she thinks their argument is absurd. Do you have a good understanding, if she rules that they have to move forward with it, what the implementation of that could look like? Could that be implemented before November 1st, or it wouldn't be that quick?
Yeah, it absolutely should be implemented by November 1st because the money is available, and it's just a question of the administration doing what the law requires it to do. In other words, the extraordinary action is Donald Trump and Republicans stopping the benefits from flowing to millions of people all across the country. And so we look forward to the judge's ruling. She's correct. The arguments being articulated by the Trump administration are absolutely absurd. But that's been the case from the very beginning. They cannot defend their position. They cannot defend their refusal to extend the Affordable Care Act tax credits, which is going to result in tens of millions of people experiencing dramatically increased health care premiums. The Republicans are now claiming, well, that's actually not the case. But as you pointed out, Jen, the reality is people from across the country are getting notices right now indicating that their premiums may go up by $1,000 or $2,000 per month. These are working class individuals. They cannot afford these increases. That's why Democrats are fighting on their behalf.